ExamPrep.School. Tennessee Accident and Health Insurance producer Exam code INSTN-Health02 or OPTN-Health02. There are 4 practice exams in this series. This video covers Practice Exam 1. The first 20 questions are free. In this video, we will be covering the following major categories for Practice Exam 1: field underwriting procedures, other insurance concepts, policy provisions, clauses, and riders, social insurance, Tennessee laws and departmental rules common to life, accident and health, property, casualty. Tennessee laws and departmental rules pertinent to accident and health insurance only. Types of policies. Let's walk through the format. I'll read each question and its choices. Let's get started. Question 1. Individual disability income insurance is primarily designed to provide which type of benefit? A one-time lump sum payment upon the insured's disability. B. Monthly replacement of a portion of the insured's lost earnings. C. Reimbursement for medical expenses resulting from a disabling injury. D. Coverage for repair or replacement of business property damaged by disability. A countdown circle appears in the top right. Once it completes, the answer is revealed. You can pause at any time if you'd like longer to think. If you'd like additional practice covering more topics, see the description for our book. The correct answer is B. The policy is intended to replace a proportion of lost earned income with periodic payments, not to cover medical costs or property losses. Reason A is not correct. It does not pay a single lump sum. Benefits are paid on a recurring, monthly basis. Reason C is not correct. Medical expense reimbursement is covered by health policies, not income policies. Reason D is not correct. Property damage coverage pertains to commercial property or casualty policies, not income replacement. Question 2. The primary purpose of a business overhead expense disability policy is to A. Reimburse the business for continuing overhead costs during the owner's disability. B. Replace the disabled owner's personal income with periodic payments. C. Provide funds to cover the owner's medical treatment expenses. D. Fund the purchase of a successor's ownership interest after disability. The correct answer is A. This policy reimburses eligible fixed business expenses such as rent, utilities, and staff wages while the owner is unable to work. Reason B is not correct. Personal income replacement is provided by individual disability income policies, not overhead expense policies. Reason C is not correct. Medical expense coverage is the function of health insurance, not overhead expense policies. Reason D is not correct. Funding a buy-sell arrangement is the role of disability buyout policies, not overhead expense coverage. Question 3. Which feature is characteristic of a business disability buyout policy? A. Provides funds to acquire a disabled owner's ownership interest. B. Reimburses ongoing business overhead expenses during the owner's disability. C. Pays periodic personal income replacement benefits directly to the disabled owner. D. Covers medical expenses incurred by the disabled owner. The correct answer is A. A buyout policy ensures remaining owners have funds to purchase the disabled owner's share according to a prearranged agreement. Reason B is not correct. Overhead reimbursement is provided by overhead expense policies, not buyout policies. Reason C is not correct. Personal income replacement is the role of individual disability income insurance. Reason D is not correct. Medical expense coverage is provided by health insurance, not buyout policies. Question 4. A company's group disability income policy defines eligible participants as employees who, 1, work a minimum of 30 hours per week and 2, complete a 60-day probationary period. Brian works 29 hours and has completed probation. Carla works 32 hours but has not met the probationary period. Who is eligible for benefits under this plan? A. Both Brian and Carla. B. Only Brian. C. Only Carla. D. Neither Brian nor Carla. The correct answer is D. Benefits under a group disability income policy require satisfying both the minimum hours and the probationary period. Brian fails the hour requirement, and Carla fails the probationary requirement. Reason A is not correct. Neither employee meets both of the stated requirements for eligibility. Reason B is not correct. Brian did not meet the minimum hours, so probation completion does not confer eligibility. Reason C is not correct. Carla fails to satisfy the required probationary period despite sufficient hours. Question 5. A small manufacturing firm purchases a key employee disability income policy on its plant manager. If the plant manager becomes totally disabled, how are the policy benefits handled? A. Benefits are paid to the plant manager tax-free to replace personal income. B. The plant manager receives after-tax benefits equal to the policy's face amount. C. The company receives tax-free benefits to cover costs of hiring a replacement. D. The company reimburses the insurer for benefit payments to the plant manager. The correct answer is C. Key employee disability income benefits are payable to the employer tax-free to offset expenses such as hiring and training a replacement. Reason A is not correct. Premiums are paid by the employer and benefits are not paid to the individual key employee. Reason B is not correct. Benefits are paid to the employer, not the employee, and are received tax-free. Reason D is not correct. The company does not reimburse the insurer. Benefits are provided directly by the insurer to the employer. Question 6. Under an accidental death and dismemberment policy, which statement accurately defines the capital sum? A. The full policy death benefit payable when an accidental death occurs. B. A percentage of the principal sum paid for specified dismemberment losses. C. The reduced benefit paid when the insured suffers a non-fatal accident resulting in partial disability. D. The amount payable for medical expenses incurred from an accident. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is a percentage of the principal sum paid for specified dismemberment losses. Capital sum benefits are only for dismemberment, not death or medical costs. Reason A is not correct. This describes the principal sum benefit rather than the capital sum. Reason C is not correct. Partial disability benefits are not paid under capital sum provisions. Reason D is not correct. Medical expense reimbursements are excluded from the capital sum. Question 7. Which of the following losses would typically be covered under an accidental death and dismemberment policy? A. Loss of hearing in one ear. B. Loss of hair due to an accidental injury. C. Rehabilitation therapy costs after an accident. D. Loss of limb strength due to a pre-existing disease. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is a loss of hearing in one ear. A, D, and D policies cover specified accidental losses such as hearing loss, while hair loss, therapy costs, and disease-related impairments are excluded. Reason B is not correct. Hair loss from an injury is not a covered loss under A, D, and D policies. Reason C is not correct. Rehabilitation or therapy costs are not payable under A, D, and D coverage. Reason D is not correct. Loss of strength from a disease is excluded from accidental death and dismemberment benefits. Question 8. Maria holds an accidental death and dismemberment policy that excludes losses due to war. While volunteering as a medic, she was fatally wounded by hostile gunfire during a declared armed conflict. Which of the following describes why the insurer will deny her claim under this policy? A. Injuries sustained in a commercial automobile collision. B. Injuries from slipping on a wet floor at work. C. Injuries from taking part in a declared armed conflict. D. Injuries from inhaling toxic gas in a household accident. The correct answer is C. The policy's war exclusion specifically bars coverage for any loss resulting from participation in declared armed conflicts. So the fatal wound in combat is not covered under A, D, and D. Reason A is not correct. Accidents involving commercial vehicles are covered as they qualify as unexpected external events under A, D, and D. Reason B is not correct. A slip and fall at work is an unintentional accident and would be covered under A, D, and D definitions of accidental injury. Reason D is not correct. Accidental inhalation of a toxic gas in a non-combat setting is an unforeseen incident and meets A, D, and D coverage criteria. Question 9. Under a basic hospital expense policy, coverage for room and board charges is typically provided on what basis? A. Reimbursement of actual hospital charges without a daily limit. B. Reimbursement up to a stated daily benefit. C. Reimbursement of a fixed amount per confinement. D. Reimbursement of a percentage of billed charges. The correct answer is B. The policy pays daily room and board costs up to a specified per day limit rather than on a per confinement or percentage basis. Reason A is not correct. Basic hospital expense policies always impose a daily limit rather than unlimited reimbursement. Reason C is not correct. A fixed amount per confinement describes an indemnity per case feature, not the daily basis of basic hospital coverage. Reason D is not correct. Percentage reimbursement of billed charges is a feature of major medical plans, not basic hospital expense policies. Question 10. Which feature is characteristic of basic medical expense coverage for physician services under a typical basic health insurance policy? A. Payment of all physician fees subject to a deductible. B. Coverage limited to non-surgical visits up to a specified maximum per visit. C. Reimbursement of surgical fees according to a predetermined schedule. D. Coordination of benefits with other medical insurers. The correct answer is B. Basic medical expense coverage typically provides benefits for physician services on a per-visit basis up to a set maximum, with no deductible applied. Reason A is not correct. Basic medical expense policies generally do not impose a deductible on physician services. Reason C is not correct. Reimbursement by schedule applies to surgical expense policies, not basic medical visit coverage. Reason D is not correct. Coordination of benefits is a provision in broader group or major medical plans, not a basic medical visit feature. Question 11. A basic surgical expense policy defines benefits according to a surgical schedule. Which description accurately reflects this schedule reimbursement? A. Benefits based on a list of operations with relative values multiplied by a conversion factor. B. Benefits equal to 100% of actual surgeon's charges for covered procedures. C. Benefits set as predetermined dollar amounts for each operation listed. D. Benefits determined as a percentage of hospital charges per procedure. The correct answer is C. Basic surgical schedules specify fixed dollar amounts payable for each procedure listed, rather than using relative values or percentages of charges. Reason A is not correct. Relative value scales are characteristic of RVS or major medical plans, not basic surgical schedules. Reason B is not correct. Paying actual surgeon's charges describes UCR plans, not basic surgical expense policies. Reason D is not correct. Percentage of hospital charges pertains to hospital expense coverage, not the surgical schedule feature. Question 12. A family major medical policy has a $500 individual deductible and a $1,000 family deductible. After the deductible, the policy pays 80% and the insured pays 20%. Two children each incur medical bills this year. One has a $600 charge and the other an $800 charge. What total amount will the insurer pay? A. $300. B. $320. C. $400. D. $260. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is $320 because the first $600 charge applies $500 to the individual deductible, leaving $100. Subject to 80% coverage, $80. The family deductible then has $500 remaining, which applies to the second $800 charge, leaving $300 for coinsurance. The insurer pays 80% of $300, $240. Total insurer payment is $80 plus $240 equals $320. Reason A is not correct. This assumes coinsurance applied to the full second charge without first exhausting the family deductible. Reason C is not correct. This treats each claim as if each had its own full deductible, ignoring the family deductible limit. Reason D is not correct. This applies coinsurance only to the first claim and ignores the second claim's coinsurance entirely. Question 13. A self-insured employer plan has a specific stop-loss deductible of $100,000. The stop-loss coverage reimburses 90% of expenses above that deductible with no further limits. If an employee incurs $280,000 in covered medical claims this year, how much will the stop-loss policy reimburse? A. $144,000. B. $180,000. C. $252,000. D. $162,000. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is $162,000 because the stop-loss policy reimburses 90% of the amount exceeding the $100,000 deductible. The excess is $280,000 minus $100,000 equals $180,000, and 90% of $180,000 equals $162,000. Reason A is not correct. This uses an incorrect reimbursement percentage of 80% instead of the specified 90%. Reason B is not correct. This assumes full reimbursement of all expenses above the deductible without applying the 90% rate. Reason C is not correct. This applies the 90% reimbursement rate to the entire claim amount rather than just the excess over the deductible. Question 14. Under standardized Medicare supplement plans, what is the required deductible amount for the foreign travel emergency benefit? A. $100. B. $500. C. $250. D. $750. The correct answer is C. The foreign travel emergency benefit under standardized Medicare supplement plans covers 80% of emergency medical services received outside the United States after the insured satisfies a $250 deductible, up to a lifetime maximum benefit. Reason A is not correct. A $100 deductible amount is lower than the model benefit provision, which specifies a $250 deductible. Reason B is not correct. A $500 deductible exceeds the standardized travel emergency deductible, which is set at $250. Reason D is not correct. A $750 deductible is far above the prescribed amount. Standardized plans require a $250 deductible for travel emergencies. Question 15. According to the NAIC Medicare Supplement Insurance Minimum Standards Model Act, insurers must rebate to policyholders any portion of premiums in excess of what minimum loss ratio during the reporting period? A. 60%. B. 80%. C. 75%. D. 65%. The correct answer is D. The NAIC Model Act for Medicare Supplement Insurance requires that at least 65% of premium dollars be spent on claims and benefits. So insurers must rebate any excess above this minimum loss ratio to policyholders. Reason A is not correct. A 60% loss ratio is below the model requirement, so it is not the threshold for rebates. Reason B is not correct. An 80% loss ratio is above the required minimum, and does not represent the rebate threshold. Reason C is not correct. A 75% loss ratio exceeds the minimum model standard. The trigger for rebates is lower at 65%. Question 16. For Medicare supplement policies, the 6-month guaranteed issue open enrollment period begins on which of the following dates? A. First day of the month, the individual turns 65. B. First day of the month, the individual enrolls in Medicare Part B. C. First day of the month after Part B coverage becomes effective. D. First day of the month, both age 65 and Part B coverage are effective. The correct answer is D. The guaranteed issue open enrollment period for Medicare supplement starts on the first day of the month in which the individual meets both the age 65 requirement and Medicare Part B coverage is effective, lasting 6 months. Reason A is not correct. Turning age 65 alone does not trigger the Medicare supplement open enrollment period without Part B coverage. Reason B is not correct. Enrollment in Part B alone without meeting the age requirement does not start the guaranteed issue period. Reason C is not correct. The period does not wait until the month after Part B becomes effective. It begins when both conditions coincide. Question 17. Techman Corporation offers group health coverage to employees who work at least 30 hours per week. It has 50 employees, 40 of whom meet the hourly requirement. During open enrollment, 30 eligible employees elect coverage. Which statement correctly describes the plan's compliance with the minimum participation requirement? A. The plan satisfies the requirement because 75% of eligible employees enrolled. B. The plan satisfies the requirement because 60% of total employees enrolled. C. The plan fails because fewer than 3/4 of all employees elected coverage. D. The plan fails because participation must exceed 75% of eligible employees. The correct answer is A. The participation rate is calculated using only eligible employees. 30 out of 40 eligible is exactly 75%, meeting the minimum threshold. Reason B is not correct. This uses the total workforce as the denominator rather than only eligible employees, miscalculating the participation rate. Reason C is not correct. This misapplies the threshold by comparing enrolled employees to all staff instead of eligible employees. Reason D is not correct. This wrongly assumes the threshold must be strictly greater than 75% instead of meeting the 75% minimum. Question 18. Stellar Corporation divides eligible employees into 2 classes, administrative and manufacturing, and contributes 80% of the health plan premium for administrative staff and 60% for manufacturing staff. Classification is based solely on job duties. Under non-discrimination rules for employer contributions, how should this policy be evaluated? A. Acceptable because contributions vary by bona fide job categories. B. Unacceptable because contribution percentages must be identical for all employees. C. Acceptable since the percentage differential does not exceed 25%. D. Unacceptable because contribution differences are allowed only for highly compensated employees. The correct answer is A. Non-discrimination rules permit different employer contribution rates when based on bona fide job classifications. So, varying contributions for administrative versus manufacturing staff is allowed. Reason B is not correct. This ignores that bona fide job classifications allow variation in contribution rates. Reason C is not correct. Non-discrimination rules do not specify a maximum percentage differential as the sole test for compliance. Reason D is not correct. Variation is not limited to highly compensated employees when based on valid job classifications. Question 19. According to the entire contract provision in an individual health policy, which of the following components is considered part of the entire contract? A. The policy, agent's advertisements, and benefit schedules. B. The policy, marketing brochures, and summary plan descriptions. C. the policy, any attached endorsements or riders, and the signed application. D. The policy, optional cover letters, and premium notices. The correct answer is C. The entire contract provision specifies that the policy, any riders or endorsements attached at issuance, and the signed application collectively form the entire contract. Reason A is not correct. Advertisements and benefit schedules do not become part of the policy contract. Reason B is not correct. Marketing materials and summary descriptions are not legally part of the contract itself. Reason D is not correct. Cover letters and premium notices are administrative communications, not contract components. Question 20. Under the time limit on certain defenses provision in an individual health policy, after what period following policy issuance can the insurer no longer rescind coverage for misstatements in the application, except in cases of fraud? A. 1 year. B. 3 years. C. 2 years. D. 4 years. The correct answer is C. The provision typically establishes a 2-year contestability period, during which insurers can rescind the policy for material misrepresentations, except in cases of fraud. Reason A is not correct. A 1-year period is shorter than the standard contestability timeframe. Reason B is not correct. A 3-year period exceeds the typical contestability requirement. Reason D is not correct. A 4-year period is longer than the statutory time limit on defenses for misstatements. Enjoyed this practice test? Tap like, hit subscribe, and share it with a classmate. Got a question we should tweak? Comment below. We read them all. Find full practice exam books in the description or at ExamPrep.School.